Inside the Magic, show number 375 for June 10th, 2012. It is Sunday, June 10th, 2012. This is show 375 of Inside the Magic, and as always, I am your host, Ricky Briganti. We've got another great show packed with Disney and theme park news and a whole lot more fun. And before we get to any of that, I want to invite you to visit our website over at InsideTheMagic.net. There you can find all of our podcasts, videos, photos, news, articles, and so much more. And if you ever have any news, tips, questions, comments, or anything else you want to say to me, you can email me at ricky@InsideTheMagic.net. Or you can call and leave a message at 407-494-4ITM. That's 4486. And now, let's get on with the show. This week's episode of Inside the Magic is brought to you by Magical Travel. You can receive a free shipboard credit when you book a Disney cruise vacation with Magical Travel. Shipboard credits are good towards merchandise, spa treatments, shore excursions, and more. And you can book all that by calling Magical Travel today at 866-207-8387 or visit them online at magicaltravel.com to receive a free price quote. Be sure to mention Inside the Magic when you call them to receive your free Disney gift card for qualifying bookings when you book that Disney vacation with Magical Travel. And here's one I haven't mentioned in a few weeks. Audible.com is offering a free audiobook download and a trial with access to over 85,000 titles to choose from for your iPod or MP3 player. Over at audibletrial.com/InsideTheMagic, you get a 30-day trial of their service, so check that out. And of course, thanks very much to all of you listeners and viewers who have contributed, including Christopher Benton. Thank you very much for your donation this week, and all of our monthly recurring donation subscribers as well. And now let's get started with our trip around the world. So we are looking forward to a big week coming up this week in terms of massive announcements. Well, not even announcements, openings and new things in the world of Disney. It doesn't get much bigger than what is coming up this week. It is going to be the grand opening, the grand debut, and the finale of the 5-year expansion project at Disney California Adventure. The debut, of course, is Cars Land, Buena Vista Street, and all the big attractions and shops and restaurants and things to see and do and experience are all officially opening finally this week. It's going to be very, very exciting. Now, actually, for a few days now, a select people have had a chance to preview all of that out in California. I'm talking about the Disneyland Resort in Anaheim, of course. I was just out there a couple of weeks ago, as you know, for the Transformers opening. Got to sort of peek a little bit into Cars Land, but didn't actually have a chance to explore. And, of course, I'm not out there right now. I'm out here in Orlando, but I will be out there in just a few days. Beginning on June 13th is the beginning of a 3-day big media event that's going to be really, really exciting. I definitely encourage you to follow along with me on Twitter and on Facebook and on YouTube and, of course, on our website over at InsideTheMagic.net. That's where I'll be covering all the excitement over the course of the 3 days. Beginning on the 13th, that evening, there's going to be a red carpet or perhaps blue carpet or whatever color carpet they decide to roll out this time. Will be celebrities showing up to the grand opening of Cars Land, which is going to be the actual event is going to be Wednesday night. Disney Parks blog has actually announced that they're going to be live streaming that event on their website, so you can definitely check that out. Of course, you can follow us along as well, and we'll have that up as quickly as possible for you to enjoy. And, of course, the exploration of Cars Land itself. And then on the 14th, all of California Adventure, Disney California Adventure, the entire park is going to be closed to the public for the duration of that entire day, exclusively for access by press that have been invited to cover it. So I'll be wandering through the park throughout the entire day, posting plenty online, as well as doing plenty of interviews and reviews and just experiencing everything that is there. And then on the morning, very, very early in the morning before the park opens to everybody on the 15th, Bob Iger will be there to rededicate Disney California Adventure as essentially a new theme park, as over the last 5 years, Disneyland has been working extensively to essentially recreate most of California Adventure to make it that park that everybody always wishes it was going to be. So we can look forward to all of that in the coming coming days, but I'm not going to leave you hanging there. I don't want to spoil anything quite yet this weekend about Cars Land and Buena Vista Street. I haven't experienced it all in person for myself yet, so I can't offer any personal thoughts. However, I do have one contributor who wishes to remain anonymous, but did write in a little bit of a report, a spoiler-free report over the last sort of few days of experiencing Cars Land and a little bit of Buena Vista Street as well, and I want to share that with you here, just as sort of I guess a sneak preview of what's to come. Again, this is completely spoiler-free, so don't worry about too much being revealed. Of course, if you do want all the spoilers, come back in a few days and we'll be talking extensively about everything that's going into that will be publicly available in just a few days in Cars Land. But to talk just a bit about what is already there and what's been going on during annual pass holder previews and cast member previews over the last few days. The report explained to me that walking into Cars Land from the Pacific Wharf side of the area is just a stunning sight. Apparently, there's a big rock archway there, and seeing the mountains, this massive mountain range that has been built for Cars Land, is the big wow factor, even more so, according to this person, than walking through the main street of Radiator Springs, that you really forget you're in Anaheim, especially when the Radiator Springs racers cars go whizzing by in the distance, which is something I'm definitely looking forward to experiencing. As far as Radiator Springs racers, the big new e-ticket attraction, it's been widely praised by those who have seen it so far in the previews. This particular contributor says that it's basically California Adventure's Indiana Jones adventure, if you will, that there's so much going on around you, takes many trips through to take it all in, that there's amazing animatronics, or spectacular, as he put it. Felt like he was in the movie, and that it is even better at night, especially for the outdoor portion. Then, of course, another ride in Cars Land is Mater's Junkyard Jamboree, in which you'll be able to hear songs Mater singing and be whipped around in circles, and he said it's just about the right amount of ride time before feeling a little bit nauseous by being whipped around. So it's definitely one of those sort of spinny rides that, I'm not really big on those. I have a feeling I'll only go on Mater's Junkyard Jamboree once, but you never know. Maybe I will absolutely love it. And then there's Luigi's Flying Tires, which he said was all right, that it's a little bit difficult to understand how to move the tires around, and that there's beach balls you can bat around that he found to be a lot of fun while you're moving around. He liked it, but he saw many others who were, as he put it, bewildered or just plain bored while riding it. So a little bit of a hit or miss attraction there. As far as the entirety of Cars Land, he called it big, but also feels small. That the Cozy Cone Motel and Flo's Cafe were excellent, especially the views from Flo's, and that it seemed like long lines are going to be forming for both of those because they're apparently going to be very, very popular with the unique food items that will be served there. As for Buena Vista Street, called it beautiful and charming, and that the street actors really made it a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to experiencing all of that. That's sort of just a little bit of a sneak preview of what's to come. Certainly check back here next week after I've experienced it all for a full report. Now, I'm actually going to be coming home next Sunday, the 17th, which means I'm not going to have a podcast 1 week from today. I'm likely going to do it the next day on Monday, so 1 day delay on next week's show, so just be aware of that. But lots looking forward to. Again, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and on the website InsideTheMagic.net for much more from Cars Land, Buena Vista Street, and the completion of the 5-year, $1 billion plus expansion of the Disneyland Resort. And for those of you who aren't going to be able to make it out to Cars Land, to California Adventure anytime soon, I was over at Disney's Hollywood Studios yesterday. Had a bit of fun walking around for the last weekend of Star Wars Weekends. Going to be posting a whole bunch of photos from that up very, very soon. But I also had some fun kind of eyeballing things that are similar between Hollywood Studios and the new additions to California Adventure. As I was walking through, I noted a billboard near the front of the park for the red car trolleys, which of course is a big part of what's going into Buena Vista Street, and even further down in the area on Sunset Boulevard, Hollywood Studios does have a red car trolley of sorts, but it's a merchandise location in the street, not something you can ride on. So not quite the same as what's going into California Adventure, that you'll actually be able to ride through the streets on the red car, but it's just kind of fun to see our version of the red car that's been there for so long. Of course, there's also our version of the Carthay Circle, which is a storefront on Sunset Boulevard as well in the park. Now in California, the Carthay Circle is a massive structure that is, I can't even remember how high, 30, 40 feet tall at the top of its spire, and houses a restaurant inside. And then, of course, at Hollywood Studios, we do have Mater and Lightning McQueen available for meet and greets, but it's not quite Cars Land, but it's those are there. And even nearby, Disney had touted some flavored popcorn being served at the Cozy Cone Motel, and I noticed at Hollywood Studios there was flavored popcorn being served right near the area. So just a little bit of fun there, sort of noting some similarities as we lead up to this big grand opening in a few days. But just because in a few days all that excitement will be unfolding at the Disneyland Resort doesn't mean they didn't already get started. This week at Disney California Adventure, there was already a grand opening. It was the Ghirardelli Soda Fountain and Chocolate Shop, now open in the San Francisco-inspired Pacific Wharf area of the park. It replaces the old Mission Tortilla Factory, and the grand opening was attended by Disneyland President George Kalogridis, as well as some folks from Ghirardelli, and of course Mickey and Minnie Mouse. It's the first Ghirardelli shop to open inside a theme park. Of course, there's the one at Downtown Disney out here in Orlando, and many, many other locations around. The same sort of tasty treats are being served there in the park. Hot fudge sundaes, milkshakes, floats, lots and lots of chocolate products. So that is already open and available for anybody visiting Disney California Adventure. If you want to see more inside and hear the opening remarks for that moment, the grand opening of Ghirardelli, head on over to InsideTheMagic.net. And you would think that with Cars Land and Buena Vista Street and all of that opening, that Disneyland wouldn't have too much more in store for the near future, but that's not true because they've already announced a sneak preview of a new technology that they're going to be offering soon that annual pass holders will be the first to experience at the Disneyland Resort. There's new technology-filled Mickey ear hats that they're calling Glow with the Show ears, and they're sort of clear ears that presumably will light up, and the hat itself is full of colorful Mickey heads, and it's going to interact with World of Color, the nighttime show over at Disney California Adventure. Well, coming up in just a couple of weeks, Disneyland annual pass holders will be able to attend one of 3 after-hours private performances of World of Color, receive free ear hats, and in order to take part in this test. The whole thing is free, but you have to RSVP in person at Disneyland. The dates specifically are June 28th through 30th at 11:45 p.m. each night. To register to attend, all you have to do is bring your annual pass, your ID, and visit any ticket booth in the Esplanade between the parks. Registration closes on June 21st, so you have a bit of time, or when the events are full. So make sure you head out there as soon as possible, and it seems like these ears will light up and, sort of colorfully dance around in beat with World of Color. Should be a pretty interesting sight. More details can be found over at InsideTheMagic.net. And speaking of details, Disney D23, the official fan club for Disney, has announced all of the details for the upcoming Destination D 75 Years of Disney Animated Features event that's taking place August 11th and 12th in the Grand Ballroom at the Disneyland Hotel. The cost to attend is $225 per person. If you were interested in the Diamond level, $1,000 tickets, that has already sold out, so you can't get that anymore. But for those who are paying the $225, if you're a D23 member, you now can find out all the details on all the presentations that will be throughout the 2 days of the Destination D event. I'm not going to go through all the details here because there are quite a lot of them. You can read them over at InsideTheMagic.net, but just as a brief summary, here are what the presentations are called. Begins on Saturday, August 11th with Walt Disney and the First Golden Age of Disney Animation, then Roy E. Disney and the Second Golden Age of Disney Animation, which is going to feature people like Don Hahn, who we've talked to here on the show before. That's going to be followed up with The Greatest Disney Animation You Never Saw, again with Don Hahn and a few others. Animating the Disney Parks should prove to be pretty popular with Imagineers Tony Baxter and Eddie Soto, who are going to be talking about, animation in Disney parks. And then that night is an evening with Dick Van Dyke and the Fantastics. And there will also be an exclusive screening of Walt and El Grupo, the Director's Cut. Then, following up the next day, on Sunday, August 12th, we'll begin with Wacky and Wild Disney animation. That should prove to be pretty amusing. Followed by Tinkerbell, the evolution of a Disney character. Then Disney feature animation stars drawing with personality. Then you've got Hearing Voices, a salute to Disney character voice artists. Any voice artist presentation is always very, very entertaining, and I'm sure this will be no different. We'll follow that by Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, still the fairest of them all. And then the highlight of the whole weekend, in my opinion, an evening with Disney legend and Oscar winner Alan Menken. That should be an incredible concert to cap it all off. And then there's even an exclusive screening of Waking Sleeping Beauty, the director's cut, once again, with Don Hahn. So it's sounding like a really excellent event. $225 is a pretty steep price, but you get an entire weekend of solid entertainment throughout many decades of Disney film history, animation history. So it should be pretty exciting. You can head on over to InsideTheMagic.net to read the full details on all of those presentations. Now let's jump out here to Orlando for a little bit to talk about a sort of wide variety of topics here. We're actually going to start by talking about ticket prices once again. I know I said last week that I don't talk about ticket prices all that much, yet here we are again, and I am once again mentioning it because of the unusual way that this year's ticket price increase for the parks happened. Normally, as I said last week, it's sort of Walt Disney World will increase theirs, and then Universal Orlando will follow not too long after that. Well, Universal Orlando decided to increase their ticket prices this year first, and then Walt Disney World did and made theirs just a little bit higher. So now this week, Universal Orlando has come back and increased their tickets again by $1 to match Walt Disney World's price increase, because they like to stay head-to-head, having the ticket one-day tickets the same price. So it's inching closer and closer to the $100 mark. Not quite there yet. I believe it's somewhere around $89, I think, right now for that one-day ticket. So interesting there. I doubt we'll be talking much more about tickets. I don't for a while now. Probably not till next year, till the next price increase. We'll see. But speaking of Universal Orlando, just yesterday, their newest attraction, Despicable Me Minion Mayhem, has soft opened. It's presumed to be also soft opening again today. The strange part is that they have yet to announce the official opening date of that attraction, which is odd considering it's already undergone testing with team members there, and which are their employees, and now to anybody who's in the park. I haven't had a chance to go over there yet to experiencing, and I'm hoping it's going to officially open in the next couple of days before I head out to California. If not, I don't know, just have to wait to see it in a little while. But anyway, if you're going to be heading out to Universal Studios Florida, you may have a chance to ride Despicable Me Minion Mayhem, which took over for the Jimmy Neutron attraction, which also took over for Hanna-Barbera years ago, which I still miss. So we'll see how Despicable Me stacks up. And I know, some of you are not going to like me even mentioning these three words. Just the mere mention of these three words may not excite some of you tremendously, but it does excite me. Yes, it's only June, but I'm going to say it. Halloween Horror Nights. I'm, of course, always looking forward to the Halloween season and Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Orlando. My favorite event of the year all the time, and information is just starting to trickle in a little bit. Construction has begun over at Universal Orlando, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this, honestly, in the next few months here on the show. I'm really going to save it for when the event starts many months from now, so don't worry about that for those of you who are not fans of it. But if you want to head on over to InsideTheMagic.net, you can see reasons why perhaps we might see The Walking Dead, the very popular AMC show, making its way to this year's Halloween Horror Nights event in Universal Orlando. It's not confirmed, not announced. We probably won't hear any announcements for a couple of months, but seems to strongly indicate that that may be one of the Haunted House themes, which has me pretty excited. I'm a big fan of that show. So that's it for Halloween for the moment. I know it's only June, and Halloween is still a few months away. And one more non-Disney note here that I was really excited to go experience this week over at the Nick Hotel, the Nickelodeon Suites Resort on International Drive here in Orlando. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have begun appearing there daily. I went and had a photo with them, and of course watched many kids wearing the colorful eye masks, also enjoying their appearance there. I've posted a video and some more photos and an article over at InsideTheMagic.net for those of you who are Ninja Turtles fans like I am. And then also at Nick Hotel, Double Dare Live has premiered there, which I haven't posted my article about that yet. That's coming in the next couple of days, but if you were a fan of that old Nickelodeon show, you'll definitely get a kick out of that as well. So look for that coming up over on the website very, very soon. So now let's jump to Walt Disney World. Well, we're talking Orlando here, and there's much to talk about that has shown up brand new there as well. Over in Storybook Circus at the Magic Kingdom, the new indoor queue, the interactive area inside the Big Top for Dumbo premiered this week, though the second half of the double Dumbo carousel is still not open yet. There's still just one Dumbo carousel, but basically this new indoor queue is essentially a big kids playground. I mean, that's really the only way to describe it. It's intended for ages kind of 2 to 8 years old to run around in, quite literally. It's got ropes and jumping areas and things to climb, and literally kids will spend the time waiting to ride Dumbo by jumping and running and having some fun in here, while parents will be sitting on a bench in the air conditioning, just kind of waiting for the attraction. I guess it's better than, standing out in the hot sun like the Dumbo attraction has been in Fantasyland for so many years now, but this is definitely something that is geared 100% towards young children. Anybody sort of over the age of 8 is going to have literally nothing to do inside this area of Dumbo except for sit and wait to ride Dumbo with their kids, which is sort of an unusual move for Disney. If you think back to, the reason Walt Disney created Disneyland in the first place was, there's a story that's told quite often of Disney sitting in an amusement park, a local amusement park, on a bench watching his kids have fun. And he always said, you know what, I wanted a park of my own where adults and kids could have fun together. So to have Disney say, guess what, parents, you're just going to sit on a bench while your kids have fun, sort of directly connects to that, but not in the best way. So not everybody's thrilled with the way this Dumbo Big Top area has turned out. Of course, you can always look at it, the fact that this Dumbo attraction really is geared towards kids. I mean, I don't have kids. I'm 31 years old. I'm not going to ride Dumbo a lot, but kids certainly are, and parents with kids certainly are, and that's really the target audience for this attraction. The coolest part about this whole thing, though, is actually the pager system that Disney has worked out. Rather than standing around and waiting in a long line to ride Dumbo, guests now receive a pager very similar to what you might see in a restaurant when you go to get a table, and that pager actually will sound when it's time, be it 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes later, and let's see if I can play what it sounds like when the pager goes off.
It's time! We're ready for you!
So there you go. That's, of course, Timothy Mouse letting you know that it is indeed time to ride Dumbo, so you can at least sit in the air conditioning and wait instead of standing around in the hot sun and waiting. And then you get to ride Dumbo, and at that point the parents have to somehow manage to snatch up their kids who are having a good time running around the playground and tell them, hey, guess what, we actually have to go ride. So yeah, there it is. No word as to exactly when the rest of Dumbo is going to open, probably within the next month or so, because they did say in July is when Casey Jr. water play area and basically the rest of Storybook Circus would be opening. Meanwhile, over at Epcot, a new experience that we have previously mentioned here on the show has made its debut. It's in a promotion of the upcoming Disney Pixar film Brave, and it is Brave, the Highland Games. It's taking place daily. Again, it's sort of a kids' play area now through July 8th, and the games you can participate in include mini caber toss, haggis flip, cake toss, and even a bit of archery. It's available from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., and the thing that Disney is hoping to get parents involved in this area is they're offering some free Wi-Fi where they are encouraging parents to take pictures of their kids taking part in these Highland games of sorts and post them on, Twitter and Facebook and send them home and all of that kind of thing, or just surf the web while the kids are having fun. Again, something where parents are just kind of sitting on the sidelines while kids are having fun. Sort of an odd turn in Disney entertainment there, but that'll be going on again through July 8th. Of course, Disney Pixar's Brave hits theaters very soon, June 22nd, so I'll be talking more about that movie and having a review sometime in the next couple of weeks. Now over at Disney's Animal Kingdom, here is sort of some surprising news this week. A new indoor character meet and greet is coming in the fall to Animal Kingdom. It's going to replace the Beastly Bazaar store, which is going to be closing this summer. And, it makes me think. Disney, of course, hasn't... Disney officially said that this meet and greet is on the way, but they didn't say any reasons to why, or rather what's going to happen to the existing Camp Mini Mickey meet and greet. Of course, it's a very large area with multiple stations in the park, sort of off to the side, where kids and adults can go meet Mickey, Minnie, etc. But if they're now opening an indoor meet and greet, of course, people would rather go there. And what is to become of Camp Mini Mickey then? Well, of course, there's this lingering project out there called Avatar, and there have been rumors for quite a while now that Camp Mini Mickey would be the area that would be replaced by the Avatar project. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, Disney hasn't said that for sure, but it seems quite possible that that is the train of thought here. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Now, I mentioned Wi-Fi a minute ago regards to Epcot and Brave, but I received some information today that this may or may not be true. We'll chalk this up to be a rumor, but apparently Walt Disney World is working on really rolling out Wi-Fi even further across the resort. They've already offered or are now offering free Wi-Fi in all the hotels around Walt Disney World. Well, apparently they're also working on getting wireless on buses, on boats, on monorails, really a wireless network that will be the entire Walt Disney World resort from the moment you're on property through every little bit. There will not be a moment when you're free of Wi-Fi access. In addition, they're apparently going to use that Wi-Fi access not only to give you internet access, but also to be able to send messages to your phone or your other device while you're around the parks. And so you can maybe get a coupon for a restaurant that has a low crowd at the time and send you in that direction, or let you know that an attraction has no wait or anything like that. Just some interesting tidbits there. Again, we'll chalk that up to rumor for now, but it would certainly be an interesting use of Wi-Fi technology should that get rolled out at Walt Disney World. Let's turn to the downtown Disney area now, where there was some hotel news announced this week. A relatively new hotel chain called B Hotels and Resorts is coming to the downtown Disney area out here in Orlando. It's going to take over the existing 394-room Royal Plaza near downtown Disney in the fourth quarter of 2013. The hotel's going to remain open throughout the duration of the transition, but by that fourth quarter of 2013 is when the new B Hotel will open. And B Hotels pride themselves on featuring sort of a contemporary/modern look, but also very family-friendly. And they have B signature elements, as they call it, including B ambiance, including some sound and sense and some mood lighting throughout, as well as B in touch, free Wi-Fi throughout all public spaces and rooms, a B active fitness center, and the B indulged spa facility. So nice renovation to an existing hotel in the downtown Disney area over the next couple of years. Now let's jump overseas for a little bit of news from a park that we very rarely talk about here on the show, though in the coming months and years we'll probably be talking about more and more. It is Hong Kong Disneyland, and the first, I guess this is the second part of their major expansion, will be opening up very soon. Big Grizzly Mountain and the Grizzly Gulch are going to be opening up next month in July at Hong Kong. It looks sort of like a really interesting spin on the Frontierland concept, but focusing even more specifically on the story of the Grizzlies and all of that. It's looking pretty exciting. Big e-ticket attraction roller coaster being worked on there, and it's sort of winding down now. Going to be opening up in the next few weeks. Of course, following that will be Mystic Point and Mystic Manor, which I'm really, really excited about and may actually get me to travel halfway around the world just to experience another variation of the Haunted Mansion. Of course, I've never even been to Paris or Tokyo for that matter, but eventually that's got to happen. So we'll see. Maybe it'll have to be a worldwide trip. Maybe in a few years. Who knows? But I'm definitely looking forward to it. Eventually. Now, last week I had mentioned that Disneyland Paris had put out sort of a teaser video online with regards to the Ratatouille ride that is in development for that park. And it's, as it turns out, that video that I mentioned last week is actually not an official Disney video. So just a really well-made fan video, which was nice. The Ratatouille ride does seem to be happening, though we're still waiting for that sort of official acknowledgement from Disney. Now, turning away from the parks, here was an announcement that made a lot of headlines this week, though it is still a couple of years away from actually taking effect. Disney announced that they're going to be banning advertisements on TV for sugar and fat-laden products during kids' TV programs. It's part of the Magic of Healthy Living guidelines set forth by Disney President and CEO Bob Iger, as well as First Lady Michelle Obama. They're basically going to sort of give it a sort of stamp of approval for the products that can be advertised during their kid programs on TV in order to continue that fight against childhood obesity and really get kids in general to live a bit healthier. Now, the move to change this advertising is actually not going to take effect for a few years, till 2015, so quite a ways away. I imagine there's a lot of long-term advertising deals, etc., that have to be worked out first, but it's a long-term way of looking toward a healthier existence for kids out there. Now, this week in the world of Disney, there were two sad deaths to report. Most recently was Stan Jolley, 86 years old. He was instrumental in the creation of Disneyland many, many years ago. He was one of the original art directors who helped design Disneyland. He also worked on a number of Disney film and TV projects as well. He died this past Monday from gastric cancer, which is really, really sad there. And then likewise, Ray Bradbury, who is author, science fiction, really a big pioneer in the world of American literature. He died this week on Tuesday at 91 years old. Of course, he wrote Fahrenheit 51, Something Wicked This Way Comes, and many more, and was instrumental in the creation of Epcot Center, as it was known at the time, and sort of establishing that futuristic feel of the park. Worked very closely with Disney to develop a lot of that. So two folks in Disney history, one for creating Disneyland, the other for creating Epcot, both passing away in the same week. Definitely very, very sad. And now let's move to the world of TV and movies, starting with TV, where just a few days ago the official debut took place of Tron Uprising on Disney XD. The episode was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. It was only part one of two parts of the series premiere, and you can actually head to the Disney XD website if you want to watch both parts already. It seems like they're going to put all the Tron Uprising episodes up on that website, so if you don't have Disney XD, or perhaps you just missed it on TV, you can head on over to the website to check that show out. If you are a Tron fan like me, you will definitely like it. And technology is on the way into AMC theaters, select theaters around the country. The Dolby Atmos system, which I know I've mentioned here on the show, it's going to be debuting with Brave. Disney Pixar's Brave is going to be the very first movie to take advantage of this new surround sound system, and it's going to be installed at select locations, including the AMC theaters downtown Disney out here in Walt Disney World. So very, very exciting. I'm hoping to see Brave using this new sound technology. Should sound pretty good. And continuing in the world of Disney movies, though moving a bit into the Marvel universe, this week it was announced that Iron Man 3 has commenced production in Wilmington, North Carolina. The film is also going to be shooting in Raleigh/Durham, North Carolina, Miami, Florida, and also in China. The movie will be coming out a little less than a year from now on May 3rd, 2013. And now in the world of video games, it was a big, big week because the big E3 conference was held. That's where all the video game companies from all over the world gather to reveal so much about their upcoming lineups of video games. And Disney certainly had plenty to say there, not only from the world of video games, but also related to video games. Much was revealed about the highly anticipated upcoming retro video game-based movie, Wreck-It Ralph. First shown off at the D23 Expo last year. Well, this is the first time it's really been shown off with footage and a trailer from Walt Disney Animation Studios to the public, and many are very excited about the appearances and cameos from characters from classic games like Q*bert and Street Fighter II and Super Mario Brothers and many, many more in this new virtual universe. Wreck-It Ralph is going to be hitting theaters on November 2nd of this year, 2012. It'll be in 3D and 2D and all that good stuff, and you can view the trailer for Wreck-It Wreck-It Ralph over at InsideTheMagic.net and on our YouTube channel. And if you want even more Wreck-It Ralph related fun, you're definitely going to want to head to the Wreck-It Ralph website. I believe it's just Disney.com/Ralph. And there you'll find a playable version of Fix-It Felix Jr., which is the sort of fictitious 8-bit or classic arcade-style game that features the title character of Wreck-It Ralph as the villain and the hero of the game, Fix-It Felix. And it's a pretty fun little game that Disney has developed just in promotion of the film that I am really, really looking forward to. But that wasn't even the biggest buzz around E3 from Disney. In fact, they were talking much about Disney Epic Mickey 2, The Power of 2, which they announced the release date for. That's going to be November 18th of this year, so a couple of weeks after Wreck-It Ralph comes out. And many walking around E3 were seen sporting the brand new Oswald the Lucky Rabbit ears. Of course, Mickey ears, iconic hat that has been around for decades and decades, and now, at least at E3 from Disney Interactive Studios, there were Oswald the Lucky Rabbit ears, and I wanted to get a hold of these, and many wanted to get a hold of these. Apparently, there was an hour-long line to be able to grab them. They were being very careful to give just one per attendee at E3, and no word as to whether or not Disney's going to sell Oswald ears, either in the parks or in the Disney store or anywhere else, but it seems like that's highly likely given the extreme popularity of these Oswald ears. Disney also released a nice video online sort of outlining the history of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit and what he means to the Walt Disney Company. Of course, Oswald was developed by Walt Disney years and years ago before Mickey Mouse, and then ultimately he lost control and possession of Oswald in a bad deal, and then decided to create Mickey Mouse following that. And of course, Oswald is now back in Disney possession. A few years ago, they essentially traded him for broadcaster Al Michaels, and are now finally using the Lucky Rabbit. When he was in Epic Mickey, now he'll be Epic Mickey 2, and the ears and all of that. So Oswald on a big comeback, hopefully making his way to the parks at some point. And one final video game note here. There's a popular iPhone/iPad/iPod Touch app out there, a game called Temple Run. Well, Disney has announced that in promotion of, or in conjunction with Disney Pixar's Brave, there's now going to be Temple Run Brave. It's a mobile game that will be debuting just a few days from now on June 14th. And that is it for your news from around the world this week. And speaking of E3, here's a video game-related tip from Brad, who writes, with it being the week of E3, I thought I'd write in with a Nintendo 3DS-related tip. One of the unique features of the 3DS system is its Street Pass feature, where if your 3DS unit passes another 3DS, the systems will exchange information and you may receive bonuses in certain games that support this function. The external green light will illuminate, indicating that the Street Pass has occurred. I always bring my 3DS to the theme parks whenever I visit, and I can say that I receive more Street Passes in Disney parks than anywhere else in the U.S. other than gaming-related events like E3. Of course, 3DS or any portable gaming system or smartphone, for that matter, can also make the wait times go by faster for gaming or taking pictures and video. And with their limited battery life, they run the risk of powering down in the middle of the day. I'd recommend taking an external battery so the system can recharge while you continue on your day. Of course, I still highly suggest charging any mobile devices or systems before heading to the parks. And for Street Pass to work, you will need to turn on the function on the 3DS system and the games that support it. Brad, definitely a great tip. Certainly taking a 3DS out to any crowded area, whether it's a gaming convention, any other type of convention, you know, Comic-Con, anything like that, you'll pick up a lot of them. But yes, Disney parks, another great way to do it. A lot of people are excited about taking 3D video and photos in the parks, and we'll just carry it around for exactly that purpose. Picking up those Street Passes, and it's fun to see people who are also Disney fans appearing in your system. Everyone else out there, email your tips into tips@InsideTheMagic.net. And now, before we jump into this week's main features, let me put in a quick word about Lanyard Lab. If you've got a business or you want to promote, or maybe you're going to attend one of those conventions that I just mentioned, you need something to give away, or you're just around a church or a school or any organization that needs to have name tags or ID cards around your neck, getting a customized lanyard's a great way to do it. You can do that over at lanyardlab.com. There, just click on anywhere that says get a quote, submit your design to us, whether it be your logo or just some text to print on there and your own colors and any other details you want. We'll email you back with a price quote along with a proof showing you what the lanyards will look like, and from there you can just purchase online. It is as easy as that, and there's no obligation to purchase, so you can get a quote for free and just to take a look at what it's going to be like. So check it out over at lanyardlab.com. That's LANYARDLAB.com.
Here it comes. An Inside the Magic Blu-ray review.
A little bit of a different intro there. Thanks very much to Jay for preparing that for us. It's been a while since we've heard from him. So yes, it is a Blu-ray review now that we've moved into the Blu-ray age, away from that old DVD review intro. And the Blu-ray that I'm going to be talking about here for just a few minutes is the new Blu-ray release of Disney's John Carter, which is a movie that I said a lot of really good things about when it hit theaters a few months ago. Of course, John Carter has had a lot of bad things said about it. It severely underperformed at the box office, and it wasn't even a result of the movie being bad by any means. In fact, the movie is a very good movie. I really, really enjoyed it in the theaters, enjoyed it at home on this Blu-ray release. Anybody who's a fan of sci-fi works, any sci-fi works over the past decades, can really attribute the success of those sci-fi works to the original John Carter text from nearly 100 years ago. And it's really disappointing that this movie has done so poorly at the box office as a result of some marketing failures. So to say that I enjoyed the Blu-ray is probably no surprise. It is a good movie. It is certainly enjoyable in this home high definition transfer. It's in 3D for those who are interested in that. Not necessarily necessary to see it in 3D. It doesn't really enhance it all that much, though it does look good at in certain points. But for the most part, 2D is just as good for John Carter. But the home release looks great, as you might expect. Any movie that is translated to HD nowadays that's a new movie is most likely going to look good in the home use on Blu-ray, and this is no exception. But what is really exceptional about this John Carter release are the bonus features. They've done a really nice job with sort of appreciating the history of what John Carter is and really explaining why John Carter is an important film despite its shortcomings at the box office. There's an excellent bonus feature on this Blu-ray called 100 Years in the Making, and if they had run this as like a mini sort of special on TV, on ABC, perhaps in prime time, I think a lot more people would have been excited about what John Carter meant and what it was, and perhaps more people would have gone to the theaters to see it and give it a shot, because I don't really know anybody who saw John Carter in the theater and didn't like it. It was just a matter of actually getting people to go. So this 100 Years in the Making bonus feature really follows Edgar Rice Burroughs and his sort of journey in creating the world of John Carter. He started writing it in a time when nonfiction really was thriving, and the act of writing fiction, particularly this new sort of science fiction, was almost looked down upon, but he went for it anyway, and it just goes on from there with his own words, as well as a variety of filmmakers who chime in and talk about why John Carter really has a historical importance and how it finally, after so many years of trying, got made into a film. Another really excellent extra on the John Carter release is 360 Degrees of John Carter, which is a fascinating look at a single day of production following director Andrew Stanton and his teams of hundreds of the cast and the crew and the extras and everything to shoot a few action sequences in one day of John Carter, and it's almost done sort of 24 style with a little ticker on the screen and telling you what time it is, and sort of going back and forth and following all the different people that are involved in creating just one single day of this massive production. Sort of ironically, it's one day where Taylor Kitsch, the star of John Carter, was absent from set. Not that he was absent, but he wasn't needed that day. They were originally planning on a shoot with him, but ultimately it had to be moved to a different day because so much was going on. But regardless of that, it is just it is wonderful to see Stanton's enthusiasm for what John Carter is and how that became infectious through the whole cast and crew, about how everybody was really, really excited about creating John Carter and probably hoped for much better results at the box office. For anybody who's a fan of sort of behind-the-scenes filmmaking, this extra feature is a perfect way of showing off how a movie is made and really gives you an appreciation for what goes into it. On the Blu-ray, there's also deleted scenes, which normally I'm not a big fan of deleted scenes. They're deleted for a reason, and, they're not good scenes usually. But in this case, Stanton actually offers some commentary about how he just had to cut some of these scenes for pacing or for time, but unto themselves, the scenes are actually pretty good. There are some that are completed scenes, some that got retooled for ultimately appearing in the movie, but others they just simply had to cut, even though they were essentially done with them, and they were actually surprisingly entertaining. The Blu-ray also has a second screen option, which means on your computer or on your iPad, you can add sort of additional behind-the-scenes artwork and a map of Barsoom and many, many other things that go go along with while you're watching the movie, which is a nice added feature if you want to see even more than what's on the screen while you're watching it. It's a little bit sort of disjointed for me. It's hard to look at an iPad and look at a screen, all together. I want to watch the movie or I want to watch the thing. But anyway, there's also a blooper reel, which is it's amusing. It's bloopers. It's what you would expect. There's an audio commentary for the film as well. But really, those two extras that I mentioned are the highlights of this home release of John Carter. Definitely, if you saw the movie in the theater, you'll definitely want to pick up this home release. It's a really solid home release that will not only give you the good movie, but also some great bonus features. If you didn't, I still recommend that you go and pick up John Carter. If you're a fan of sci-fi at all, you will enjoy this movie. There's nothing wrong with the movie itself, despite what you may have heard elsewhere. So John Carter is available now, Blu-ray, 3D, Blu-ray, and DVD. I'll make it this week's featured item. If you want to pick it up online through our Amazon affiliate link, head on over to the Show 375 section of InsideTheMagic.net. I want to talk about a topic that is a little bit out of nowhere here on this week's show. I've got an interview to share that I found to be extremely interesting, or at least the topic we're going to be talking about is extremely interesting, but it doesn't really relate to anything that's going on out there in the world of Disney. I know we talked about a lot of Cars Land coming up, Buena Vista Street, and much, much more going on in the world of theme parks, but I kind of wanted to step away from all of that with something that my attention was drawn to recently, and it's something that you might not immediately be drawn to, but stick with it for a few minutes here, and maybe you'll be fascinated by it as much as I was. It's something called Bible Storyland, the movie. If you're not familiar with it, as I wasn't before a few days ago, actually about a week ago or so, it's something that you might think, Bible Storyland, what in the world is that and why are we talking about it? But it's got some really strong connections to the origins of Disneyland, which really, really surprised me. And I had a chance to chat with this documentary, the director and the producer of that, name's Harvey Jordan and Stephanie Hubbard, actually other way around, producer and director. But anyway, I want to welcome them to the show here now to learn a little bit more about what in the world exactly is Bible Storyland and why Disney fans should be interested. Joining us on this week on Inside the Magic are the producer and director of a really interesting new documentary called Bible Storyland, the movie. I welcome Harvey Jordan and Stephanie Hubbard here to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
So let me start with you, Harvey, since you are, it seems to be the man behind this obsession with Bible Storyland. Tell me a little bit, for the many people out there, including myself until recently when I saw the movie, what is Bible Storyland? How does it relate to the grander world of theme parks, and what drew you to it?
Well, Bible Storyland, in a nutshell, is a theme park that was planned for the early 1960s in Southern California. It was going to be on the scale of a Disneyland, but it was going to be the theme of the Bible rather than, other themes such as Disney characters. And I was drawn to it about 10 years ago when I first discovered some of the drawings and artwork for the theme park. And all of this is chronicled in the film itself. Once I discovered these drawings, I didn't know what they were for, and over time, when I realized they were for a theme park, I was already drawn in and became very obsessed with it. This is over a couple-year period when I realized they were for Bible Storyland theme park. Mm-hmm. And now a decade later, the film is complete, and I'm trying to move on with my obsession.
Well, all right, so we're talking 1960s, early 60s. This is when Disneyland was pretty much in its infancy. And how did, I know from watching the movie that there were some strong Disney ties there. It seems like the people behind Bible Storyland were formerly with Disney and worked with Walt Disney?
Correct. Nat Weinkauf, who was spearheading Bible Storyland, was considered Walt Disney's right-hand man. And Bruce Bushman, who was the head architect, master planner of Bible Storyland, had worked on numerous Disney projects and was a Disney artist. And the two of them had left Disney and started working on this project. So it had a lot of Disney similarities. It was going to be in Southern California, just like Disney. And they really thought that they were going to rival Disney as a competing theme park in the early 1960s.
Which is something tough to kind of wrap your head around today. I mean, obviously, I'm out here in Orlando. Holy Land Experience is like 20 minutes from my house, and many are familiar with that sort of style of religious theme park where there are no rides, but it's a very high emphasis on displays and shows, certainly. But it seems like Bible Storyland was really taking the Disneyland direction and was going to have literally like a ride to heaven.
Right. If you look at it, when you watch our documentary, for those of you who have not seen it already, you will see that they were trying to replicate the Disney model. Disneyland had been around for 5 or 6 years already, and they were basically trying to replicate the model of Disneyland, create a competing theme park, and just use themes of the Bible. And when you watch the documentary, you'll see how they came to this decision to use the Bible themes. And you are right. We made a visit to the Holy Land Experience for our film to kind of get an idea of what a Bible theme park might be. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, Holy Land Experience for whatever, they have a different mission, of course. And theirs is much more religious-based. And it's more of replicating the stories of Jesus in the Bible, whereas
right.
Bible Storyland was going to be roller coasters and carousels through Noah's Ark, and it was going to be like Disneyland.
Yeah, it's a fascinating concept. When I first sort of stumbled onto this, I thought, Bible Storyland, that's not really my thing. And then as I sort of got more into it and watched the trailer over on your on BibleStorylandMovie.com, it interested immediately drawn to it for being a Disneyland fan. It's amazing that something that was so strongly connected to the world of Disney so many decades ago had escaped me all these years. I had never even heard of it before.
Right. Most people had never heard of it. Hugh Hauser, who does a program in California chronicling all the lost stories of California, had never heard of it. And, of course, because it had never been built, it was lost to history.
Yeah.
It disappeared. Nothing had ever been written about it up until now.
So, Stephanie, was that your sort of motivation for directing this film, this documentary about Harvey's journey into Bible Storyland?
You mean motivation to talk about something that hadn't existed before?
Right, exactly.
Well, definitely that was interesting. I mean, we all love that Seinfeld episode where they talk about making a show about nothing. And it felt very much like, despite the fact that, there was all these historical elements, but there was nothing, it's literally an empty field. And, but that was a great discovery for us because we went to that field and we shot a number of times, to really be at the site of what could have been, Bible Storyland. And I think that to me is a very powerful idea, what could have been, what might have been, and how that relates to, how are we actually living our actual lives. And so I think one of the things I wanted to take on was both the story that had so fascinated Harvey and its ties to, it's absolutely fascinating when you guys are talking about Matt Weinkauf and Bruce Bushman. I wanted to chime in and say that both of those people were very involved in building Disneyland. So they were involved with Disney, but then they were integral to Disneyland itself. And we actually have many stories from Bruce Bushman's son about how Bruce Bushman was involved with designing the rides, and now he actually lost his job because he disagreed about one of the rides. He lost his job working with Disney because he disagreed about a ride. And then actually, Nat Weinkauf asked him to design a similar ride for Bible Storyland. So that must have been, I thought that was kind of ironic.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So there were the tie-ins to this, venerable institution of Disneyland and Disney itself, and that whole story and the mystery of Nat Weinkauf, which was very interesting. But then it was also this sort of bittersweet idea of this thing that doesn't really exist, and how to build a life when that's all you can think about.
Right. Well, and that's kind of the part that really surprised me. Of course, I was fascinated by this notion of this theme park that never was, particularly right around the same time Disneyland was in its early days. But also the fact that you did focus on Harvey and his sort of family adventures and adversities with somebody who's sort of obsessed with a theme park topic, something I can definitely relate to.
Right. And then we also had, I think, one of the things that I found really interesting was how ideas about religiosity have changed so much over the years. How the people who disapproved of Bible Storyland did so on grounds that seem so strange today. And how I think we make a case that, talking about Holy Land Experience again, Bible Storyland was, as it was proposed, was very secular, and there was one of the guys involved, the Tin Man, Jack Haley, was religious, but he was Catholic. But I don't think really that he understood showbiz and he understood Hollywood, and I think they all had this vision of a really entertaining place, and that was kind of secular, really. They had a lot of the images that really struck me as being very interesting were the images of, this 50s family in a Middle Eastern bazaar buying urns and things, and it really started me wondering, what if there had been this place where people could go and start to understand that part of the world because it was in their backyard and they went every year when they were kids. How might our understanding of different religions be different if the same way we understood Mickey Mouse and Goofy was the way we understood Judaism and Christianity and Islam? Yeah,
it certainly could have, sort of shaped the way that religion was viewed for, those decades ago. Obviously, I'm talking about a time way earlier than I was even around on this earth, but from watching it, it definitely seems like a very different sort of climate and atmosphere than perhaps if that same idea had been proposed today.
Yes, and we see that, and we actually have a couple of people that we talk to in the film that bring, I think, a very, they're very entertaining. but they bring like a pretty high level of thinking about it in terms of, how is it that the Episcopal Church was one of the main leaders that sort of said no to Bible Storyland, and how is it that Holy Land Experience is the way it is now? And I think we sort of dig into those questions in an entertaining way, along with all the other sort of goofy animations of
Right.
Harvey and his family. And I just want to make sure that we mention there is a pig in the film. One of my favorite elements of the film is Mimi the pig.
Yeah.
And of course, we also have cartoon superstars.
Sure. Well, it's definitely a very entertaining film as well as informative. Harvey, I wanted to ask you, right at the beginning of the movie, obviously we're introduced to Bible Storyland as a concept, and it seems like you sort of stumbled across this artwork that you mentioned that was really the foundation for all the concepts and everything. Where did that artwork come from?
Well, when Nat Weinkauf passed away in the late 1970s, from what I can determine, his estate basically disposed of his papers and his files and everything in his studio. A lot of these items are for projects that had never been built.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, people probably thought, well, what use or value would these have? And a gentleman named Jeffrey Todd stumbled upon them 20 years before I did. And he had them in his collection for many, many years. And as you see in the movie, I made contact with Jeffrey, and that's how I acquired the collection.
It's just amazing to think about that age before, today you want to find a concept art for a new attraction that's going to a Disney theme park, you just pull it up on Google. There it is.
Right.
But obviously decades ago, something like that was hard to come by.
That's correct. That's correct. All of the renderings and drawings had to be done by hand, and there was no electronic media to pass them around.
Right.
Salesmen had to drive back and forth across the country or fly back and forth and show the original drawings to prospective buyers.
Yeah, it's just sort of mind-blowing to know that there was this concept out there at the same time as Disneyland that just didn't make it as far, though the artwork was so detailed and right along the same lines with everything that we've seen from that same era that did come out of Disneyland.
Right, right.
So anybody out there that wants to see the movie, learn more about Bible Storyland and your adventure with it, best way is to go to the website to check it out?
They can go to the website. We also have our new DVD that was finished or printed recently. Colorful pictures on it and some extras, DVD extras that they can buy on our website. And if anybody is going to be in the San Antonio area for the San Antonio Film Festival, we are making our world premiere in San Antonio, the place where I was born.
Oh, excellent. When is that?
The festival runs the 18th through the 24th of June.
We'll be screening the June 22nd and the June 24th.
Okay,
Right.
great.
We'll have 2 screenings, and Stephanie and I will be in attendance for both and answer questions afterwards.
Fantastic. So the movie is Bible Storyland the movie, the website BibleStorylandMovie.com. Harvey and Stephanie, thanks very much for taking the time to chat with me.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Very, very interesting. I hope you found that as fascinating as I did when I first heard Bible Storyland. I thought, religious park, Holy Land Experience, not really my thing. But as I dove deeper into it, it's just incredible how some people who were literally worked with Walt Disney on Disneyland are in pieces of the Disney archives. They're there in early days of Disney construction, sort of branched off into creating this what would have been a massive Southern California theme park to rival Disney, but with a religious theme. Of course, it never happened, and it likely will never happen exactly as it was written. But literally to have a ride to heaven and many other Bible stories in such a form like that, very, very interesting there. So you can certainly find out more by watching Bible Storyland the movie. Head to their website to check out more, and I think you'll find it as fascinating as I did.
Ricky. Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Ricky, this is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Inside the Magic listener feedback.
So let's jump into some emails here, accompanied by the old Paradise Pier music, as we move into the upcoming events that I was talking about, the reinvention of California Adventure, if you will. We'll hold on to just a little bit of that old California Adventure style here in the background. So first up, an email from Dane, who writes, I started listening to your podcast right around November of last year, and since then it has been my go-to for Disney theme park news. Tied my theme park cravings when I can't get to the parks myself. I really appreciate how informative and quickly you get your news out, and while it's very clear you love Disney parks, it was such a great surprise to see you actually gushing somewhat during last week's show. I did see something I normally don't do, and watch the show via YouTube, and right around the hour and 30 you started talking about the Aladdin soundtrack you purchased when you were younger, and the same enthusiasm I use when talking about things I love about Disney. Perhaps you have done this before in previous shows I've missed, but I found it sympathetic, refreshing, and very relatable to see you just fanboy over something you love. I also greatly enjoyed watching how Chick Russell seemed to be nearly bursting with pride during your short interview with him during the opening of the Transformers ride at Universal. Dane, yes, I do report, Disney news and theme park news quite often, and, some of that can not necessarily give me an opportunity to sort of go into that fanboy mode. I try to stay middle of the road on a lot of things. Sure, I'll throw out my opinions here and there and my own personal preferences, but I like to deliver sort of everything that has come about in the various theme parks in an objective fashion, in which I can sort of present what's there, present the information, present the interviews, and let you form your own reactions and opinions toward things. But occasionally I do chime in with my own thoughts and opinions about things, and I certainly will coming up soon when I do head out and talk all about Cars Land and all of its rides and everything. I have a feeling, based on the reactions that have come out of the pass holder screenings and the cast member, or rather pass holder previews and the cast member previews so far, it seems like everything is really phenomenal in there and really is going to make any Disney fan excited. So I look forward to gushing about a few more things in the near future. Next, an email from Ron, who writes, thanks for all the great coverage of the opening of the new Art of Animation Resort. The place looks fantastic, and while there are plenty of Finding Nemo characters throughout the newly opened wing, I noticed something missing. Are there any of the characters from the Dentist's Aquarium in the resort? I didn't notice any. If there are, which are there, where are they? If not, did the subject of their absence come up with any of the Imagineers during the interviews or Q&A sessions? I believe that group of aquarium characters is the weak link in what is otherwise my favorite Pixar movie. Their exclusion from the new Art of Animation Resort could very well be interpreted that Disney doesn't have much confidence in their appeal either. Ron, very, very good question. And no, I didn't see those characters anywhere throughout the entire resort, which is, it could be looked at the way you said, that Disney doesn't necessarily like those characters, but it also could be tied into the theme of where you are and the place you're being put in the area and in the surrounding the big blue pool. You're supposed to be as if you're swimming through the EAC. That's the motif going along the sides of the buildings with the swooping water and the turtles, and of course Crush and Dory and Marlin and all of those friends are there, and it's under the ocean, and that whole concept, not sort of later when Nemo is in the aquarium with those friends. Even when you enter the buildings and head to your rooms, it's still keeping with that EAC theme. The only sort of proximity to the dentist's office that you'll see is the giant pillars with the mine seagulls on them. That's sort of related there with the pelican and all of that. But no, you don't see those, at least as far as I could see, you don't see those characters anywhere, which is interesting. I would think they would figure out a way to work them in somewhere. Armando writes in, related to Art of Animation once again, and writes, for as long as I've been going to Walt Disney World, I've always wanted to book a room near the pools and all the activity. During a past business trip to Orlando, I was there by myself and decided to stay at Pop Century and booked a room in the front of the main pool near the main building, what Disney calls the premium room with pool view. Boy, what a mistake. Every morning I'd be woken up by maintenance cleaning with water guns on the pool deck and blowers cleaning the surrounding area way before I needed to wake up. After I would return in the afternoon, wanted a bit to rest a bit after meetings all day and before I went out to explore the world for dinner. This was made virtually impossible because of the loud pool parties the entire afternoon. I tried changing rooms, but it was impossible as all the rooms away from the pool were booked. Typically, Disney charges a premium the closer you get to the main building and pool. I think it should be the other way around, and those rooms be the least expensive, as rest and relaxation inside those rooms is virtually impossible. Armando, as I'm sure you heard me talk about at Art of Animation, the exact same was true. The big blue pool is full of activity there all day long, targeted towards kids. Lots of loudspeakers, loud music, loud happenings going on with games and that kind of thing. And if you're anywhere around the pool there, you're going to experience the same thing. You'll have quite a lot of commotion going on that you can hear from within your room throughout the day and even well into the night, as at night they show movies by the pool. Fortunately, there are going to be 2 more pools eventually in the next few months at Art of Animation that are supposed to be quieter pools. The Little Mermaid and the Cars area will have pools, so if you want one of those smaller pool views and sort of a more relaxing environment, I think those are going to be the ways to go, though we'll have to wait and see when they officially open up, if that is indeed the case. Next, continuing with sort of the topic of animation here, Chris writes in and says, I've been listening for a long time, and I do have a correction to your show concerning the animation resort. The model sheets, story sketches, and visual development artwork supplied to the resort for The Little Mermaid and Lion King wings came from the Animation Research Library. The artwork that supplied the Pixar wings came from Pixar's archives. On the podcast, you mentioned that the artwork came from the Disney archives. The archives has some artwork, but the animation and anything that is used in the creation of Disney animation is housed in the Animation Research Library. Chris, thanks for that subtle correction there. Yeah, I just kind of chalked it up and said the archives as a general term. I wasn't necessarily specifically referring to the Walt Disney Archives as a specific institution. I guess I just meant the lowercase a archives in general. Some archive somewhere, be it the Animation Research Library or Pixar's archives or anywhere else. If I said the Walt Disney Archives, it's probably not what I meant, and I apologize for that. So thanks for the correction. Next, an email from Austin, who writes, been a long-time listener to the podcast, and your podcast is my absolute favorite. Me and my family are planning to go to the Walt Disney Family Museum in August for my 16th birthday, which should be very exciting because I'm a huge Walt Disney fan. I am wondering what your suggestion would be for where to stay, how many days we should go to the museum, since you went to San Francisco to see it all in 2011. Austin, yes, I did indeed, and I assume you heard my sort of report about San Francisco and everything a few months ago. I think we went in November. If you somehow missed that, definitely go check out that episode of the show. But with regards to where you should stay in San Francisco, there's a lot of options depending on what else you're going to see. I can't really make a recommendation there. It really depends on what your plans are as far as the greater exploration of San Francisco. There's not necessarily one hotel I'd select over another, but for how many days, you'll definitely want at least one full day at the museum from the moment it opens to the moment it closes. There is a lot to see there, and you'll spend forever just reading everything, watching everything, interacting with everything, looking at all the exhibits. There is so much packed in there, and it just keeps going and going and going all the way to the end. There's really not a dull moment in there. If you really want to stop and take in some of the extra presentations that they often have there, often on the weekends, and spend even more time, you might even need more than one day. But for a sort of once through, one full day at the museum should be enough to give you enough time to really take in full appreciation of what's there, and without really rushing through everything. I went and was maybe a couple hours short of a full day, and I could have used those couple extra hours to really see it all. Yeah, there's a lot of good places to eat right there in the Presidio area. So middle of the day, you can leave the museum, or you can eat there. They have a little cafe in the museum, but you could also leave, go get something to eat, and come back as well. Next up, an email from Jason, who sent in a link to something that is a really, really touching story that I'm not sure if I mentioned, related to Snow White's Scary Adventures closing at the Magic Kingdom last week. I don't think I did. Jason sent the link to the story of the autistic boy named Ben, who has ridden who rode Snow White's Scary Adventures 3,500 times and was its final rider at the Magic Kingdom. Disney was well aware of this boy who really used Snow White's Scary Adventures as a connection, not even connection, but a sort of a way of enjoying life. I mean, it was his favorite thing to go through there, and of course, the closing of that was not news that he wanted to hear. And so you can read the entire report on his I think it's Dad's blog over at shmoolok.com, which I'm not sure what that website name is, but it's shmoolok.com, and it's a very, very really great story. That's a 4-part blog entry detailing the whole final night of the experiences and what Disney did extra special for them. It's something that everybody should really read about, telling the Disney magic that was rolled out there for this final night of Snow White's Scary Adventures, and make sure you have a tissue handy when you read it as well. Very touching. And thanks to Jason for sending the link over. Next up, I've got a 3-part email here with a few questions from Kevin and Tara from the UK, who write, number 1, we have a full set of unopened Magical Moments pins from the 100 Years of Magic celebration. They would light up and flash as you went to different areas of the 4 parks. Do you think they would still be activated in the parks if we brought them with us? Number 2, we read an article by Skipper Ben about the top 10 frozen treats in the parks and have had all of them except the strawberry shortcake at Mrs. Potts' cupboard, which was situated near the rear exit of Winnie the Pooh. As the revamp of Fantasyland has obviously changed the area, do you think this shop will reopen, or do you know where else they may sell them? And number 3, also in Fantasyland, there was a shop called Tinkerbell's Treasures that my wife wanted to visit on our last trip. We never got around to it. Has it gone during the revamp, or is it still open? Kevin and Tara, number 1, I don't think those old Magical Moments pins work anymore. I mean, they may still light up when you turn them on, but I don't think they interact with the park any longer. I have one of those as well from years and years ago at the 100 Years of Magic celebration. They were kind of fun and amusing. And actually, I talked about those glow-in-the-show ears earlier, very similar to what we're talking about here. The new ears for World of Color in California will light up in time with the show, apparently. And now we're talking about the pins from what, 10, 11 years ago, whenever 100 Years of Magic was? I guess it was 11 years ago. Same sort of concept, but no, I don't think those work anymore. With regards to Mrs. Potts' cupboard and the Tinkerbell's Treasures, both of those are still around in the Fantasyland area. They have not been gobbled up by the new Fantasyland expansion, so you don't have to worry about missing out on either one of those. Matthew writes in and says, with the release of Wreck-It Ralph, I started thinking about the connection between Disney and gaming. After thinking of how big the gaming industry is, do you think a theme park ride based upon an icon of a video game would ever be considered? Or do you think Disney would ever try to work with Nintendo to start a theme park based on their iconic creations like Super Mario Brothers and Zelda? Matthew, really great question. I've been saying for years that Nintendo should have a theme park. You can imagine walking through Hyrule from Zelda, or the many, many lands of Super Mario Brothers with the pipes and the blocks and everything. It would just be an incredible environment, and there's so much sort of existing design work that could be integrated into, if not a whole park, then at least a land. I would love to see Nintendo Land exist somewhere. For some reason it doesn't. I don't know why Nintendo has never created something like that. It would be a huge area. Would Disney work with them? I have no idea. I would love to see it. Anything's possible since the announcement of the Avatar project. That sort of came out of nowhere and surprised everybody, and who knows? But video games, certainly interactivity is becoming an increasingly popular topic amongst the parks, especially out here at Walt Disney World, and video games ties in with that. I don't know. I hope so. That's all I can say. Couple more emails. This is from Brittany, who writes, I know you're familiar with Walt Disney World, and I would like to think that I am too, but I'm planning a trip in September with my boyfriend, and I'm trying to plan special things that you wouldn't do on a typical trip to Walt Disney World. Do you have any recommendations? Well, Brittany, I'm sure I have an endless supply of recommendations depending on your interests. I assume you're talking about doing things outside of the parks, and my sort of go-to answer for this is always explore the hotels, and not even just the hotels on the monorail loop, which which are great unto themselves. There's a lot to see by just hopping the monorail and going around to Grand Floridian, Polynesian, and the Contemporary. You know, you can wander the Polynesian beach, explore the lobby area and all the artwork in the Contemporary, etc. But even go on over to something like Port Orleans, which I was over at recently for the very first time in a long time, and it is beautiful there. Just explore the grounds and see the water, maybe hop on a boat somewhere, do some parasailing, they've got little boats at Downtown Disney you can drive around, and on the Seven Seas Lagoon, as Devin just mentioned in the chat room, and it's so many outside of the park activities that you can see and do that is unusual and different, as you say, that you wouldn't normally do on a trip to Walt Disney World. Mini golf is always a favorite of mine. I love doing that, as well as mentioned by let's see, Jodes Kent in the chat room. Another suggestion in the chat room is First Circle D Ranch. Another great idea there if you're into horses and all of that kind of thing. And, the list goes on and on. Lots of sort of atypical adventures. Of course, there's always those Segway tours that I'm a big fan of, particularly the one that takes you around Fort Wilderness. It's a great way to zip on through on a fun contraption through the woodsy areas and just get the wind in your face and enjoy. So, of course, that costs a little bit extra money. But yeah, there's just a few suggestions. There are so many choices that most of them do involve resorts. If you just go to a sort of a resort desk and ask them what extra activities can I do at your hotel, it's likely you'll find many, many options. All right, let's see. We've got one more email from Michael from Chicago, who writes, once again, I love your podcast to get my weekly fix of Disney and the unpredictable weather of Chicago. I have two questions for you today. First, I will be heading down to the world for 3 days to meet up with some friends, but on the third day, I will be by myself. What do you suggest for a solo single day for a lifetime Disney fan? Second, what's the deal with the Swan and Dolphin hotels? I've been confused by the ownership and the reviews of the hotel. Should I put it on my list of resorts to stay at? Michael, to answer your first question, I take solo trips to the parks all the time. Obviously, I'm local. I can just kind of zip over there, sometimes for just an hour or two. Sometimes it's all day. Yesterday, I was at Star Wars Weekends from like 11 a.m. till 5 p.m., maybe 6 p.m. By myself, just wandering around, enjoying. Really, the advantage of going to theme parks by yourself is that you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. You don't have to worry about if other people are hungry, if they need to go to the bathroom, if they're tired, if they want to ride this or that. You do whatever you want. And for me, that usually means go, nonstop, and forget about eating and drinking and doing everything like that, because I just want to go, oh, there's a ride, I want to go ride that. Oh, I want to go see that show. I want to do this. And it's just all about you, which is a nice feeling if you're not familiar with being in the parks by yourself. You want to go just sit on a bench and watch people walk by? Do it. You want to go ride Space Mountain 6 times in a row? Yeah, do that. It is an adventure unto itself, and it's also good to kind of strike up conversations with people around you in line while you're waiting for a ride, or even cast members. You can meet a lot of people that way that maybe otherwise you wouldn't talk to when you're busy talking to other people in your party. So that can be a lot of fun as well. With regards to Swan and Dolphin hotels, they are not owned by Disney. They are on Disney property, and if you're kind of working your way through Disney hotels, you might want to put them at the bottom of the list, because they're not actually Disney hotels. I've never stayed at either one, so I can't tell you reviews of them. I've heard the food at a few restaurants, and both of them is good. I'm just not like you. I'm not sort of big into the whole Swan and Dolphin thing, just as there are other sort of downtown Disney area hotels that are not Disney by themselves, and thus not really of all that much interest to me. And yeah, there it is. That is it for your listener feedback this week.
There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
And now we wrap up show 375, the last show before the big week that is the grand opening of Cars Land and Buena Vista Street, and the culmination of the 5-year, $1 billion plus renovation project of Disneyland Resort, and specifically Disney California Adventure theme park. So much excitement coming up this week, beginning, again, I'll say Wednesday night. I think it's at 6 p.m. Pacific time, so kind of late, 9 p.m. Eastern time is when the celebrity arrivals will begin at Disney California Adventure, so you're going to want to follow along for that. That's going to be followed by the grand opening ceremony for Cars Land and an evening of exploring and partying in Cars Land. The next day, the entire duration of the day, from very early in the morning to very late at night, going to be exploring all of California Adventure, everything new. Follow along on the website and on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube for all of that as well. And then Friday morning, the 15th, the grand sort of reopening of California Adventure, the rededication of the park, and then the masses will descend upon the park as Cars Land and Buena Vista Street and the whole park is officially done with all this construction for so many years now. It's going to be such an exciting time. Looking forward to not only experiencing it for myself, but also bringing it all to you in the coming days. So definitely be sure to follow along for all of that. I'm really, really looking forward to it. It's been a long time in the making. Hopefully you enjoyed chatting about some other topics here on this week's show. Of course, I talked about John Carter, the Blu-ray release. If you want to pick that up, check the show 375 show notes on the website. And then we talked about Bible Storyland, sort of out in left field there, but very interesting and related to the topic of Disney, very much tied in. I had never heard about it before. I found it to be fascinating. BibleStorylandMovie.com is where you can find out more about that. Of course, I do want to thank Magical Travel for sponsoring this week's episode of Inside the Magic. You can find out more about their services by visiting magicaltravel.com. And then there's that trial of the Audible service, audiobooks and much more over at audibletrial.com/InsideTheMagic is where you can sign up for your free trial. And of course, visit us at lanyardlab.com to see all the different styles and custom lanyard options that we have available and get a price quote and proof and all that good stuff. So stick with us for all the big openings from California Adventure, and I'll be back next Monday, I think, for next week's show. Thanks very much for listening and for watching every week. Have a magical week.
Just a dream
Bye.
away.